These sailors were conducting underwater construction operations nearby.
That's your baby.
Sharing the moment was Jordan's mom, Esther Gonzalez.
It's no secret that the world we live in can be a cruel one indeed. Every now and again you hear stories about how certain people got some form of misfortune or another, and many times, not even through any fault of their own, life just chose to give them lemons, and they had no way of making lemonade.
Going under.
However, it's also important to note that no matter how challenging that life can seem to be, there's always some space for kindness and humanity. And just as there are so many clips that show people who suffer for no apparent reason, there are also clips of people who have banded together to help others in their time of need. Today, perhaps we'll show you something that will restore your faith in humanity. Join us as we have a look at some random acts of kindness that might make you cry. Guy shaves his head for his lady. You know that feeling when you have someone in your life and they just support you through thick and thin? It really is an amazing feeling, one that I personally wish we could all get to feel at some point in our lives. In this first clip, we see the moment that a guy apparently helps out his girlfriend by shaving her head as she prepares to have chemotherapy treatment for a tumor that's growing in her body. Now, this in itself is pretty touching. The fact that he stayed with her, even through her treatment, just goes to show you the love between them is real. But the guy takes it one step further by literally shaving his own head in solidarity as well. This was pretty cool to see, to be honest. No matter who you are, I really hope you get to experience this type of love. Surprise performance. These days, there's been a major push by many workplaces to foster that family feeling between workers, and while some might not think it's overly necessary, I personally don't have anything against it. At the end of the day, everyone should feel valued and appreciated. In this next clip, we see a beautiful moment when a music conductor was apparently rehearsing with an orchestra, and all of a sudden they broke character and surprised him with a lovely rendition. Now, apparently it was his birthday and he didn't necessarily expect a fuss over it, but they remembered and they did this beautiful set for him. And just watch as he quickly got into conductor mode and helped them to finish it off. Talk about one heck of a beautiful surprise. A new heartbeat. Now, there's no worse fate in the world than death. Whenever a loved one dies, it's kind of like a part of you is chipped away slowly. And let me tell you, it's one of the most heart-wrenching feelings in the world. Sometimes, however, there are those people who find a way to take a tragic situation like death and make something beautiful out of it. Back in 2013, Heather Clark, a woman who is based in California, had lost her 7-month-old son, Lucas. However, while she did feel terrible about the loss of her son, she also decided to donate his organs, which included his heart. This heart would go on to one Jordan Drake, a little 4-year-old girl who had been battling a congenital heart problem since she was born. Heather and Jordan eventually met at the Phoenix Children's Hospital, and check out the moment when Heather heard her son's heartbeat for the first time since he passed away.
That's your baby.
Sharing the moment was Jordan's mom, Esther Gonzalez.
It was a beautiful moment. Even with the shadow of death looming over, she had managed to give the world some hope. Top customer service. Now, if you run a business, the most important thing for you at every point is to ensure that your customers have the best experience possible. And even if some of these customers have disabilities, there's really no reason why you shouldn't go above and beyond just to make them comfortable. Back in 2016, the story of a Virginia-based Starbucks barista went viral after she apparently took her time to learn sign language just because she noticed that one of their regulars was a hearing-impaired guy. Crystal had actually only been working at the Starbucks for a little while, and she'd only waited on the hearing-impaired guy once before deciding to take the time out to learn sign language. But one day, when he went into the restaurant, he got a sweet note from her. It worked, and the next time that he came in and to make his order, she was right there with sign language knowledge.
What you want, drink.
Now, it may not have been a big deal to her, but I'm pretty sure for that guy, as well as many other people who battle hearing impairments, this would have meant the world. Support the front lines. The war in Ukraine has been one of the most devastating conflicts of the past few years. It's already cost lives of tens of thousands of people, while even many more are injured. But another group of people that tend to be ignored are those who have been displaced as a result of the conflict. Millions of Ukrainians have had to flee their country into neighboring lands just so they can at least remain safe as the conflict rages on. And for many, it's a case of starting over, but as the war continues, this footage showed how some Polish volunteers apparently welcomed Ukrainian refugees as they crossed the border into Poland. Clips like these only go to show that even amidst a catastrophe like the Ukraine war, we can all be the light that we all need to survive by lending a hand to others. Cold beer for a bro. Farmers are an important part of our society. If you think about it, most of the food that we eat, farmers have to grow and harvest. And for many of these guys, the work just never stops. Even in the harshest of weather, they have to be out on the farm tilling and making sure that the world's need for food can be met. So, if you're able to appreciate a farmer today, I think it's well worth it. Just take a look at these guys who dropped a chilled bottle of beer for a farmer on a hot day. I'd say those guys did a great job, and it certainly is a way to show the man how important he is. Navy officers rescue a plane. Even with the advancements of technology, there's still a present danger of plane crashes and airplane mishaps. But in some rare cases, we see how people can come together to help out victims of these horrific situations. Back in 2022, this clip would be captured showing a moment when members of the U.S. Navy at the Chuuk Islands in Micronesia came together to help out victims of a plane that had apparently crashed into a nearby lagoon. According to reports, the plane had missed the runway when it tried to land, and it skidded straight into a body of water. It had already began to sink, but fortunately, these Navy officers acted quickly to stop it.
These sailors were conducting underwater construction operations nearby.
With water already pouring into the plane, the officers knew they had to act quickly, and that's exactly what they did. It was a last-ditch effort as the plane had already began to go down, and fortunately, these guys managed to get the job done, freeing everyone from the plane while ensuring that not a single life had been lost. Super Aunt. Back in 2014, a woman in Miami was running a few errands with her 5-month-old nephew when she realized that he had stopped responding to her calls while she was driving. She immediately came out of the vehicle and began calling for help on the road, asking for anyone who could lend a hand. With emergency responders on the way, the woman, whose name was Pamela, immediately began administering CPR on her nephew. Fortunately for everyone, the baby was able to remain stable until emergency response came, and thanks to their help, little baby Sebastian was able to survive. Quenching thirst. Children really are amongst the most innocent of us all. They're the perfect examples of how pure that we should be as humans, and they show that example even without knowing it. For this next clip, we see a moment when a little girl noticed a homeless man beside her and literally got up to give him some water to drink. It wasn't only the fact that she had given him water, she had also noticed that he had trimmers in his hand and literally held the bottle steady for him to be able to drink easily. And when it was time to leave, she made sure that he still had the water with him. What a beautiful little soul. Shoes for the homeless. Speaking of showing kindness to the homeless, sometimes it's not even about having something to eat or drink. For many of these people, the basic necessities of life are just nowhere to be found. They don't have a house to live in, and they barely have any clothing on their backs. So when a person helps to fill in the gap, you can imagine how grateful the homeless people can be. This guy understands that all too well. He gave a homeless guy a brand new pair of sneakers. Just take a look at the smile at the end of the clip. Those shoes must have meant the world to that man. Saving a drowning kitty. When we talk about random acts of kindness, they actually go well beyond just being there for our fellow humans. Sometimes being able to do something thoughtful for an innocent animal in need of help will also go a very long way in making the world a better place. For this next one, we see the moment when a man in California had to act quickly in order to save a cat that was drowning as a result of a huge flood.
It's going under. It's going under.
Now, I can't even begin to imagine how scared that cat must have been at that moment. I mean, these guys hate even a drop of water touching them, and for it to be floating helplessly in the water while having no hope of being rescued, that must have been terrifying. Fortunately, this man came along and got it out of its situation. Tap here to power up. You know that moment when you're trying to achieve something but you're also feeling a bit down? Sometimes all you need is a little bit of encouragement, and you may not even know where it comes from. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at this little kid who stood outside during a local marathon in order to cheer runners up in the cutest way possible. The best part of it was the runners did not actually ignore him. What a scene to behold. Respecting the hijab. One of the best ways to show kindness to people is to respect their beliefs and customs. You don't even have to agree with these beliefs sometimes, but by showing respect for them, you also show a deep regard for the people themselves. In this next clip, we see a moment when the hijab of a soccer player apparently came off in the middle of a match, and as she struggled to get the ball away from her opponents, it came off, sending her into a bit of a frantic effort to try and get it back on. Now, instead of just leaving her alone to deal with it by herself, her opponents immediately rallied around her, covering her from the crowd as she quickly put it back in place. If you know anything about devout Muslim women, you would know that they don't play when it comes to their hijabs, so this really was a beautiful act to see. Crossing assistance. Working as a traffic officer means being very attentive to the needs of everyone on the road, whether they have a vehicle or not. And if you find an elderly man on the road who needs your help as a traffic cop, then the least you can do is actually be there to help. This next clip would be captured in China, showing a moment when a traffic cop helped an elderly man across the street. Because the man was so old, you can understand that walking fast was not exactly easy for him. And besides just making sure that everyone with cars stopped, the cop went the extra mile by carrying the man on his back to help him move along fast. Also, I've got to say props to everyone who stayed put just for the man to be able to cross. Mother dog gets some help. Speaking of doing good to animals, we'll now check out this next clip. I understand that most of us see a stray dog and might look away, but you really don't know how much a little random act of kindness can actually mean to many of these animals. In this clip, we see a moment when someone sees a stray dog and feeds it a piece of fried chicken. And you may think the dog would just go ahead and gobble it up, but she literally took the whole thing and ran quite a distance to feed her children. Apparently, the mother pooch wasn't even hustling for herself. She just wanted to have something for her children to eat instead. Maximum encouragement. I don't know about you, but whenever I'm working on something, having people encourage me definitely goes a long way. Remember that bottle flip challenge that's been taking the internet by storm for the past few months? Well, I think it's safe to say that this is definitely the best one of all. This little girl was at a baseball game and began flipping a bottle, and everyone in her section literally stopped what they were doing to give her some encouragement. The funny thing is, I doubt the girl even knew everyone was watching her, and when she finally nailed that bottle flip, you can see just how excited that everyone was. Target hero. Sometimes displaying random acts of kindness really just means doing some basic things that nobody else will do. For instance, take this guy. He was apparently shopping at a local Target when he noticed that the parking lot was becoming flooded because the drain was clogged. And so, he simply went and found a simple solution to the problem. This was pretty cool because the guy actually didn't need to do this. He could have just gotten what he wanted, gotten into his car, and zoomed away, but he spent some time to make the really uncomfortable situation much better for everyone else. And really, that's what heroes do now, isn't it? Ambulance rescue. If you see an ambulance, the first thing that may come to your mind is their work to help people who are in need. But sometimes, even while an ambulance is tasked with ensuring that people are safe, they can still have some pretty regular rescues to handle. There are some real emergencies that ambulance operators have to work out in a flash. Take this clip for instance. An ambulance operator was stuck in traffic and trying to get somewhere when someone fell off his bicycle at the intersection. Considering that the operator probably had somewhere to be, it was pretty great to see that they had spent all that time to attend to the bicycle rider. Toy plane recovery. Even while you work or learn something new, I think it's safe to say that you can always find time to help out someone in need. Take these guys for example. A man was learning how to fly a helicopter when he and his instructor came across a rather interesting sight. Apparently, a boy on the ground was flying his toy plane and had sadly crashed it into the top of a tree.
Uh-oh, he just crashed a bitch. He just crashed it.
Did he really?
I swear to God he did, right in the trees.
The guys immediately diverted their chopper to the location, where they then helped to recover the toy plane for the little boy.
Hold on to her.
I'm pretty sure the kid already wanted to be a pilot, but after seeing how these men had helped him out, his resolve would only become stronger. Automatic firefighter. What do you do when someone else's car is on fire? Some people may run away for their own safety, while others will pretty much run toward the fire and lend a helping hand. In this clip, we see a moment when a man in Saudi Arabia used his own vehicle to put out another vehicle that had apparently caught fire in the desert. And he did it in quite an ingenious way. Now, I've got to say, the guy really did display some quick thinking and courage here. Sand is a natural fire extinguisher, and fortunately for everyone, there's an abundance of it in the desert, so why not just put it to good use? Delivery completed. Working as a delivery person can be quite the challenge. You have to ensure that food gets delivered to the people who want it on time, and that in itself is a pretty Herculean task. Back in January of 2022, a woman in South Dakota got a surprise visit at her home by a police officer. Apparently, the DoorDash delivery guy, who was supposed to drop off her food, was speeding and arrested by the officer, but instead of just letting the food go to waste, he then decided to deliver it to the woman instead.
No, I'm not who you're expecting, but your driver got arrested for things he had to take care of. So I figured I'd complete the DoorDash.
It was pretty cool if you think about it. The officer was not under any kind of obligation to deliver the food, but he thought to go above and beyond nonetheless. Well-deserved finish. They say that sports have the power to bring everyone together. And even though the purpose of sports is to compete with other people, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we're all still competing against humans who deserve compassion. In this next clip, we see the heartwarming moment when a triathlete apparently passed his opponent only a few meters from the finish line after the latter had gone the wrong way. Instead of crossing the line and capitalizing on his opponent's mistake, the guy decides to hold on for his opponent to pass instead. Now, he may have had to settle for a third-place finish, but he got massive respect for what he did in the end. Cool play of the game. Have you ever been to a baseball game? Because if you have, then you've probably seen the frenzy that can take place whenever a foul ball or a home run makes it to the crowd. People clamor for a souvenir because it marks a piece of history, and more often than not, adults will tend to get the advantage over children when it comes to catching the ball. But this guy decided to make a special little girl's day by giving her the loose ball that he had found.
Robert's air conditioning, cool play of the game. Nice job by this fan. Gives the baseball, the foul ball to the little girl.
To make things even better, that little girl's father instructed her to go and thank the man who had done the nice deed, and just take a look at the smile on her face as she shows her appreciation.
Make sure you go thank the gentleman. And look at that smile.
The man might not have taken the ball home, but I'm pretty sure that smile must have made it all worth it in the end. Safety first. Some sports are inherently more dangerous than others, and while it might not necessarily be the most popular sport, polo has some level of inherent risk, especially to jockeys who may lose control of their horses and even fall off. At a racing tournament in 2016, we saw this incredible act of sportsmanship as one of the jockeys helped his opponent, who had apparently lost control of his horse while making a jump. Considering that the jockey could easily have been trampled by his horse, this was a really cool act of kindness, and at the end of the day, everyone's safety is the most important thing. Triple A. Mother Nature is one great leveler now, isn't she? Once a natural disaster occurs, it really doesn't matter who you are or what you have. If we don't band together as humans, surviving is going to be a whole lot more difficult. This truck driver understood that, and after he saw a man in a car get trapped in a flood in California, he decided to lend a hand in the most practical way possible. This guy was driving a massive rig, so the floods had nothing on him, but still, he saw someone in distress, and he was more than happy to help them out. Lunchtime. When you see some of the cruelty that a lot of animals have been treated with, you'd be moved to the point of tears. And seeing just how well this vet treated a recently rescued dog, well, it really warms the heart. According to reports, the dog had recently been rescued by the vet service, but she was so terrified that it couldn't even eat a thing. So the vet literally sat in the cage with her and ate right beside of her. It took a while for that dog, whose name was Gracie, to get comfortable, but the vet didn't give up, and after a while she finally began to eat. Talk about having enough patience. At the end of the day, we really all need each other in this world. No matter what you're going through, you really don't know how much that it means to someone if you treat them with a little bit of kindness. But what do you think, though? Have these videos inspired you to be kind to someone today? You should be sure to let us know in the comments down below. Be sure you're subscribed to get more videos like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.